Welcome to the show. My name is Ray, and I am the host, and apparently the only one here tonight. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Horror Syndicate on YouTube and hit that like button, follow button, whatever it is that you are watching us on. Please help us out by using the old subscribe, whatever you want to do. I am Ray, Razor, Rage of Razor, whatever you want to call me tonight. And tonight, I'll probably keep this short because I'm alone, as I've not heard from anyone yet when it comes to coming on the show. I know Nate is out of town. He is in Burkittsville, formerly known as Blair, checking out the filming sites of the Blair Witch Project. He sent along some really cool pictures and a video. That was the last place we saw him. Just saying. Anyway, tonight I want to kind of go back over kind of quickly, if anything. The March Madness is finally over, and it was madness. There were times that I thought that Shaun of the Dead was going to win it all. And I said, and again, I'm not a huge fan of Shaun of the Dead, but if Shaun of the Dead wins, I'm out. I'm turning in my horror badge and closing down the Horror Syndicate. But as luck would have it, 28 days later, won the 2000s bracket. So if anybody is here that followed along with the brackets, I want to thank you all for being a part of what we did this month. It was 100 and I got to do the math again. 64 plus 64 is 128 plus 24 is 152. 152 different horror movies from 1970 to 2009. That's a tall task. And I did every single one of them for you guys. Had a great time. I always have Rat on me. Thanks, Nate. I hope you're having fun out there, bud. I don't hate Shaun of the Dead. It's just one of those movies that I saw so many times when it first came out. It's like every time somebody would come over, do you have Shaun of the Dead? And it's like, yeah, I've seen it more than I've needed to. Minus Halloween. Oh, looks like somebody else is here. Minus Halloween, The Thing, Vampires, and Christine, I have only seen on his other movies, minus The Word no more than twice, so I'm not a big Carpenter fanatic, but he is one of the best. Thanks. Let me get even madder, or I'll make the red on me. But it looks like Seth's here, so this will get a little bit more interesting. Hey, Seth, what's going on?
What's up?
Oh, not much. I was getting ready to talk about the fantastic response we got for the month of March from our March Madness. Very happy with the outcomes. Not really the outcomes, but how many people came out to be a part of it. Made me rather happy.
Yeah, that's very cool.
I'm going to show the.
Yeah.
We got over 2,000 new people following the page. Got some new subs, and the final matchup, as you can see on your screen, is John Carpenter Palooza. John Carpenter's Halloween and John Carpenter's The Thing. And I called this as soon as we let the Thing back in, as soon as we let Halloween back in, one of them's going to win. I knew that right away. Because John Carpenter this is the proof. Proof is in the pudding that John Carpenter is the master of horror. And for those who are watching from Facebook or anything like that, how do we figure out the winner? Well, whoever gets more votes. So, since this is taking forever, I've never done this on my Chromebook, so there you go. As you can see, 762 votes for John Carpenter's The Thing over the 695 votes for John Carpenter's Halloween. Looks like Seth voted for The Thing. Keith voted for Halloween. Drew, these are people I know. Drew Rose is part of Unparalleled Comics, my comic book company. He voted for Halloween. Ron Ford, Halloween, Halloween, and Halloween. I voted myself, but I voted for The Thing. All right. That's fun. These are not the final tallies. The Thing still has a chance. It's got till midnight Central Standard Time to pull off the upset. Actually, would it be an upset? If Halloween won, that's not an upset, right?
I don't think this is an upset if either of them win. They're two of the greatest horror films ever made. It's a win-win.
Yeah. Hey, Nate, did you vote? If it says Halloween, so maybe Nate voted for Halloween. I don't think there's a wrong answer here, but I will say that Halloween and The Thing are both banned from future brackets. Again, it's just the reason why I did that the first time was because it was obvious. Every time we put the Halloween in there, it'd win. Every time we put The Thing in there, it'd win. It just got annoying. It's like the point really is to get more people watching more of these movies, like, because there's a lot of people you see with some of these matchups. Oh, I've never seen The Descent. Well, it's one of the best of the 2000s now. Check it out, and that's kind of the point, and also to gain more followers, which we did. Any big surprises for you in this whole March Madness other than Shaun of the
Dead? Well, Shaun of the Dead was a very surprising one to a certain extent. Like, I know it's a pretty well-loved movie. I mean, I love Shaun of the Dead. I know that you don't particularly care for it so much because of your situation with it, but I was surprised just some of the films that it beat. But
yeah, I'm gonna make
everyone's got the.
I'm gonna have to make a Facebook post retiring. We're gonna hang the poster in the rafters, like they hang the poster or hang the jerseys in the rafters in basketball. We'll have to hang the poster, the Halloween poster, and the Thing poster. These are retired. I had a whole list at one point, but that list is long gone. Elm Street was on there too. Elm Street. That's Elm. So we decided we're going to talk about John Carpenter a little bit because Nate's out of town. Jared's having Easter dinner. Happy Easter to anyone who celebrates Easter. Happy Easter, Seth, if you celebrate Easter.
Same to you.
Okay. But anyway, you can't let the remake win. Oh, you can't. Oh, it might. That was so somebody chimed in and said we should do a 2010 to 2019 bracket. I'm like, okay, maybe. I just went through a month where I did 160 plus. And then somebody said all remakes bracket, which I'm already telling you right now, the Thing's not going to be in that. Because I don't think many people even know that it's a remake. I know it is. Terrifier is the LeBron of horror. That's hurtful to LeBron James because Terrifier is terrible. Anyway, so a couple other John Carpenter movies were in this bracket. Christine was in it. In the Mouth of Madness did not make it far at all, unfortunately. Neither did Prince of Darkness. Both of them I thought would get a little bit further along, but then neither of them did. I know there was one bracket I kept watching. I was like, I wonder if Seth's getting mad because all of his favorites are getting bounced out pretty fast. I think it was the 90s bracket. I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, I stopped reading the comments after a certain point.
Yeah. But is Halloween the greatest horror movie of all time? Because George is the greatest basketball player of all time. So, anyway, let's talk about John Carpenter. And I'm sure you have plenty of reasons why you believe he's the greatest or the master of horror. Tell us what it is about John Carpenter that keeps you coming back. Because before I let you do that, John Carpenter's movies, most times, even to this day, you can still find something new about the movie. Every time I watch a thing, there's something new that it's in that movie. Halloween, not so much, but I've seen Halloween like 1,000 times. So, 6 different rings, 6 different timelines. Yeah. So, what keeps you coming back to John Carpenter is, and he's obviously your favorite. We've talked about this before.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a huge John Carpenter fan. And I think what keeps me coming back is just his style of filmmaking, his style of storytelling. It's not it's not your typical formulaic style as far as the way the stories are structured or the way that the characters are established or even evolve throughout. And hold on, I'm fighting off the cat here. And he's like one of those. He's a filmmaker who, because of the way that he, I guess, negotiates some of his projects, like he gets to have his films and his voice.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not your traditional cookie cutter, formulaic Hollywood type style. I mean, the way he ends his films is very against the grain as far as he leaves things open-ended. He leaves things up to the audience. He's a filmmaker who, he said on many occasions, he trusts the audience to be smart enough to figure things out on their own, or at least with the way that he ends some of his films too, he'll leave it up to interpretation for the audience. So I have a lot of respect for him in that regard. I just think he's really good at, obviously, you know, we know him for horror stuff, but he's done plenty of stuff outside of the horror genre. But I mean, with his horror stuff especially, he knows how to build suspense with not only his direction, but, you know, in conjunction with his cinematographers and with his score. You know, it's just like, you look at Halloween and the way that it's shot and the way that it's framed and with the score appears throughout. It just, you know, not a lot happens in that movie, and yet there's something very unnerving about the movie. And then you look at something like The Thing, where it's also atmospheric, but then he builds up, you know, the paranoia with the characters, with the sets, the location, the score from Ennio Morricone. You know, just like, I think he's really good at his craft, just from a completely technical level. And you know, he's got certain films that he's done stuff that's you know, studio kind of stuff, like Memoirs of the Invisible Man or whatever, they don't really kind of feel like his stuff. But I just think that everything that he's done, like, I religiously watch his entire filmography. I have everything on Blu-ray with the exception of his Masters of Horror stuff, which I don't have on Blu-ray, but I have on DVD.
I don't think they're available on Blu-ray, are they?
Maybe as a set, I think. I think there's maybe a Masters of Horror set, but I want them individually because I have all my Carpenter films on my shelf in chronological order of release. I even made sure I bought 2 copies of Halloween so I could have Halloween with the Halloween collection and then Halloween with the Carpenter collection. But like,
you're an American original.
It's true. But like, you know, but another thing too is like, he's not a guy who likes to repeat himself. So that's why he's only directed 1 sequel, and that's, you know, kind of a remake, and that kind of goes against this point. But like, every single one of his films feels different from story and character perspective. I know there's some similarities between, say, Napoleon Wilson from Assault Precinct 13 and Snake Plissken, and even Desolation Williams from Ghost of Mars. But all his films feel different from one another. They have a different feel, and each of them are just so well crafted. Yeah, he's my favorite filmmaker. I'm sorry if I'm rambling.
Nope. I want you to talk as much as you can because this is John Carpenter. You're his number one fan, at least with the horror syndicate. But
Yeah. Well, to answer Sean there, I love Starman. I think Starman is such a great movie. It's so unlike Carpenter with how sort of like lighthearted it is, but it's also got some very heavy moments to it, and it's genuinely funny in certain areas, and it's just great.
I agree. I think Prince of Darkness is highly underrated. Yeah, I've never really been much, and we've talked about this, and I think you guys are generally flabbergasted. I've never really paid much attention to who directed movies in the past. The only one that I really cared about ever was George Lucas, because George Lucas created my favorite thing in media, Star Wars. If you don't know, yeah, I'm not talking about THX 1138 or whatever. Um, but being part of the horror syndicate, you start really delving into filmmakers more, and you become more aware of filmmakers, and you start, okay, I know what, like some filmmakers, you're gonna be like, I know that this is generally gonna be a good movie, unless it's Wes Craven, and you're like, I know that I'm either in for a shit show or a brilliant piece of filmmaking, or even a masterpiece. But Carpenter, while I can sit there and be like, okay, I know this is a Carpenter movie. It's likely going to be good, number one, and it's likely going to be atmospheric with a great score and plenty of tension. And
Hmm.
that's one of the things that draws you in. And I, of course, was highly aware of Halloween growing up. Halloween, the franchise itself, and the film are very much something that got me into horror. I mean, I've always liked horror movies, but Halloween 2, which for those out there that don't know, who put Halloween 2 as one of Carpenter's best movies, he didn't make that movie. He wrote the script. He didn't direct it. I saw a couple people say that's their favorite Carpenter, one of their favorite Carpenter movies. So I don't think it counts. But anyway, Halloween 2 I saw first, of course, and then I discovered Halloween years later and just loved it and watched the franchise over and over and over. And, you know, so that's probably the same way. That was my first foray into Carpenter until I found out he made Christine, and I had seen Christine before I saw Halloween 2. But yeah, I've always been a fan, just didn't know it for a long time because I'd never paid any attention. I don't watch credits and pay attention to that stuff. Well, I do now. I used to not. Yes, you're pointing.
Well, yeah, I mean, my situation is kind of similar to a certain extent. Like, so I started paying attention to credits and stuff like when I was in high school, when I was kind of really kind of studying the art of filmmaking. But growing up, my mom was a huge fan of the Halloween films. She was always watching them. She had the VHSs, so I knew of Halloween. I saw Christine. I may have seen The Thing when I was a kid, but I don't quite remember if that's accurate or not. And then in 1996, I saw Escape from LA in the movie theater. My dad was a projectionist at the local theater, and from time to time, he would let me go with him, and I would watch a couple movies back to back while he did his shift. And one of them was Escape from LA, and he was like, I don't know if he saw the movie, but he saw the original, and he was like, Snake Plissken's an awesome character. You should go check that movie out. I watched it and I enjoyed it. I still enjoy it to this day. I know that people beat it down, but then when I was in high school, I started watching more of his stuff, and then I think Christine came on DVD around the same time, and so then I was able to rewatch that. And then I started paying attention to him, and then I was like, I want to check out more of his movies, and then I watched The Fog. And The Fog is the film that made me the Carpenter fan that I am today, because I was like, holy shit, this guy's awesome. His scores are awesome. His stories that he tells are awesome. And then it just went from there. My obsession kind of took off from there.
Happy day. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, definitely different paths. I just, I started paying more attention, and I saw Prince of Darkness when I was younger. I didn't quite understand it, but I saw it nonetheless. You know, and some of the Fog I saw when I was younger, but I didn't put it all together until I think it was 2006. Elizabeth, my wife, and I moved into our first apartment together. Was it 06? Yeah, I think it was. Anyway, the year doesn't matter. Well, it does actually, because I was 26 when I saw The Thing for the first time, and she had it on DVD, and I'm like, oh, you got a horror movie mixed in with the Mel Gibson movie The Patriot, and your copy of The Fifth Element and Pirates of the Caribbean and Twister. Those are like the only movies she had. But she had The Thing. And I'm like, so she's like, oh, you got to see that. This is one of the best horror movies ever made. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is a horror movie? How come I don't even know about it? Because the internet was still new and we didn't have Facebook, and we had some, you know, like I went to the spawn.com spawn boards like all the time, but then we talked about movies and games and stuff. But so anyway, she locked me in a room and I watched it, and I came out a new man. I'm like, holy shit, that's one of the greatest horror movies I ever saw. And had no idea it was John Carpenter still. I was like, oh, The Thing, that's so cool. You know, and then years later in 2016, when I started the Horror Syndicate, that's when I had to start paying attention to it, because I was doing reviews on movies, and generally we mention the directors in reviews. By the way, there is a brand new review up on the horrorsyndicate.com. I've not shared it on the Facebook page for a movie called Compression that Nate wrote the review for. It's an indie horror film. We support indie horror heavily here at the Horror Syndicate, so go check it out, thehorrorsyndicate.com. Anyway, yeah, so when I started the Horror Syndicate, I did a review for, I think it might have been The Fog. Actually, I take it back. That was for Rage of Razor. And I was like, oh, John Carpenter. I clicked his name on IMDb. I'm like, holy shit. This is the guy that made Halloween. Okay, I knew that. Wait a second. He made The Thing? Holy shit. You know, I'm like, and I kept holy shitting myself. Not shitting myself, but, you know, saying holy shit. You know, and then I got to 1998. I'm like, holy shit, he made Vampires? Fucking love that movie. You know, like, it just, it all kind of snowballed from there. So, I would say I'm a Carpenter fan. I don't. There's a couple movies I'm not fans of, like They Live. I'm not a huge fan of.
Fucking
Seth,
piece of shit.
What happened? Cat?
My cat.
Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah, sounds like it. No, They Live. I'm not a big fan of. And what was the other one? Big Trouble in Little China. I'm not a big fan of. But to be fair, I didn't see Big Trouble in Little China until I was in my late 30s, and it probably would have been better if I saw it when I was younger. So, Vampire. Oh, here we go. Vampires is my favorite of his movies. No, I'm not insane. It's just a personal choice. Nothing wrong with it. I love vampires. What's your favorite scary movie? A Nightmare on Elm Street. No, Showgirls. But yeah, so I guess I've become a bigger Carpenter fan as time goes on, because he's also a filmmaker you can pretty much trust. I still haven't seen his last movie, The Ward, I think. That's the only one I don't think I've seen that really kind of in the horror realm. I've seen Escape from New York. I've seen, what's that one about, it was like a siege movie with police and a police station. What is that one called?
Assault?
No, Assault on Precinct 13 is not a horror movie, but it's fucking great. So yeah, I mean, you know you're getting a banger with John Carpenter.
It's that movie you refused to watch for so many years.
Yeah.
Even with me buying it for you, you fuck.
I still watched it. I watched not your copy, my copy, but the copy you got me.
Yeah, like 3 years later.
3 years later. It wasn't 3 years, was it?
Holy shit, my fucking cat fucked up my situation here.
Was it last year that I watched it? I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Do you have a stand or something like that?
I got something somewhere but I don't know where it is. So I just was like trying to prop this up against something, but the cat ran into the cord, and
I got the stand from Dollar Tree. You can't barely see it, but it's actually really awesome. It was $5, and it extends and closes and anyway. Go to Dollar Tree, see if you can find. It's in their their $1 and beyond section. It's pretty. I got 2 of them. Cats, man. There's a whole Facebook page called "Cats Are Assholes." And
I wrote a short story on my Facebook page called "My Cat's an Asshole" about. It's a. I think it's kind of based on a true story about how my cat's trying to kill me every day.
That's what they're doing. They act like they love you one minute, the next minute, it's like Evil Dead or Army Darkness.
Dude, you don't pet them once, and then they try to fucking assassinate you. Yeah. And I think my cat's been trying to kill me for years. She's gonna get me one day.
You didn't pet me that one time, and now you're dead to me. Yeah, that's how cats are.
Yep.
So we're gonna do a little ranking of our top 5 favorite Carpenter films, horror or otherwise. Mine are all horror. I'm gonna let you go first and kind of explain why they land where they land.
Oh man,
you didn't come prepared.
Oh no, well I'm prepared. I have that ranking video on the YouTube channel.
So has it stayed the same?
I would say my top 5 are still the same. I do have to put this out there, though. I did not consult the internet before I made my choices. So I would say my top 5 are all perfect Carpenter movies. I love them all equally. You can look at my ranking as a ranking, or you can look at it as these are the top 5 Carpenter films. Maybe not in any particular order, but so I just want to put that out there because I know people are going to be. I expect some people will probably run their mouths with where I put a couple of them, but number 5 for me is John Carpenter's Assault on Precinct 13. I fucking love that film since I first saw it. It's a film that I go back to a lot. I rewatch it quite often. I think it's got the score for that film is like probably one of my favorite Carpenter scores of all time. 2, I love the story and I love the catalyst and I just love the setting and I just think Assault on Precinct 13 is just such a fun movie. It's his second film. The first one being Dark Star, but that was more of like his college thesis film that he finished. But Assault on Precinct 13, just it really demonstrates Carpenter's skills as a filmmaker and as a composer, and it's such a fun movie. Number 4, and here's where people will probably disagree with me. Number 4 is Halloween. Halloween is arguably one of the best horror films ever made. I get that. And I totally agree with that. As I mentioned earlier, it's atmospheric. It's beautiful with the way that it's shot, with the way it's composed. It's got some great characters. Dr. Loomis is one of my favorite horror protagonists of all time. Michael Myers is so great, and I love that the film, even though nothing really happens for the majority of it, is with Michael stalking. I think that's very effective. So Halloween is number 4. Number 3 for me is The Thing. Again, excellent with its atmosphere, with its dread, with the paranoia between the characters and with the setting. And I think it's just such a really cool movie, and it's very well made. It's got some great characters, amazing special effects. It's probably one of the best special effects films of all time.
100%.
And and it's just it's a movie that I watch often. I mean, I showed it to my youngest daughter a few years back, and she was just sucked into it. She loved it.
It's my son's favorite horror movie.
Yeah, she actually went to school and was talking to her teacher about it when she first watched it a couple years ago. So yeah, I mean, the Thing and Halloween are typically considered to be Carpenter's two best films, and you cannot argue that whatsoever, because they are. So number two for me would be The Fog. Like I mentioned earlier, when I first started getting into the Carpenter's filmography, The Fog is the film that made me a Carpenter fan, and that's why I have to put it at number two, because I love that film. I love the characters in that film. I love the score for it. I love the story of it. And it's one of those movies that I rewatch very often. And then number one for me is the film I consider to be his most underrated, and that is In the Mouth of Madness. When I first watched In the Mouth of Madness, I had never heard of it. I got a recommendation from a Blockbuster employee back when I was a teen, and I watched it. Me and my friend rented it. We watched it, and it just kind of blew my mind. I love the story, and you know, one of the things too is like I'm a big reader. Like I love books, and especially at the time I watched it, I was big into like Stephen King type stuff, and so I just love the idea of blending reality with fiction. Sam Neill gives my favorite performance of his entire career as John Trent. And I just think it's such a unique movie, and it's just really cool, and it's just like one of those movies where like I don't understand why it didn't get very far in the brackets that you did. But it's one of those movies where it's like that movie will never, ever, ever get old to me. Like that's my favorite Carpenter film, hands down. I understand. Again, I just want to point out I do understand that The Thing and Halloween are considered his two best, and I totally get that. But In the Mouth of Madness is just the one that is just a film that I have a great amount of love for. It's a film that anytime I talk to like a film fan, or if I meet a horror fan for the first time, I ask them if they've seen it, and if they say no, I hand them one of the 3 copies that I have in this house. Because I have a DVD of it, I have the initial Blu-ray of it, and then I got the Scream Factory Blu-ray of it. Yeah. I'll lend out my DVD. I'll keep the Scream Factory one here.
Under lock and key.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I learned a hard lesson with John Carpenter's Cigarette Burns. I've had to rebuy that movie 3 times because I lend it out to people, forget who I lend it to, and I've never gotten it back. So, so now I have 2 copies of that as well. But yeah, those are my top 5 favorite John Carpenter films, and I do love his entire filmography from Dark Star to The Ward. Although The Ward is it's not a great movie. I don't think it's quite as awful as people make it out to be, but it's not one of his best. But I religiously watch his entire filmography, often in order of release. So there you go.
Kind of like Kenny G, you celebrate his entire catalog. I don't think anybody can knock anybody's list for what, like, I know I'm surprised by certain people's lists, when I see certain things placed in certain places. I'm like, holy shit. Okay.
Yeah.
My list, I don't have any of his regular movies on there because I can't, I'm weird. I have to have, have them all in a separate place. I can't combine horror and regular movies, as you would say, or as I am saying. So like I'll do 5 horror movies and state that I think Assault on Precinct 13 is a top 5 Carpenter movie, but I can't mix them for some reason. I think Assault on Precinct 13. If you take out his horror movies, let's see, They Live. Let's say, okay, let's just do this. Escape from L.A., They Live, Big Trouble Little China, what am I in? Escape from New York, and I just said it. Assault on Precinct 13, non-horror movies. There you go. Top 5. So, horror-wise, I've got number 5 is Halloween. I love Halloween. Don't get me wrong. I do. I think Halloween's a great movie. But I don't know if it's. No, I love Halloween so much. Like, there's times I'm just sitting there like, I feel like I'm in the mood for Halloween, and like there was this weekend, I was like, I could really visit Haddonfield right now. Like that's the way I think about it in a way, and I love it that much. But there are times that I'm like, want to watch a John Carpenter movie. My number 4 would be something I'd reach for before Halloween, because Halloween's in its own little world, in my opinion. So my number 4 is In the Mouth of Madness, and I saw that in '94 or '95, somewhere in there when it came out in video.
95.
So I saw it in '95. I also saw, or maybe '96. It's Lord of Illusions, because I saw them both on the same day, and because I got them mixed up for a couple of years, I couldn't remember which was which, and I loved it. Yeah, Sam Neill was great. One of the creepier horror movies that you couldn't tell what was going on, what was real, what wasn't real. Such an interesting Stephen King, H.P. Lovecraft, and John Carpenter rolled into one movie. And then I'd say number 3 is probably the Thing. The effects are some of the best ever. Period. It doesn't get much better than The Thing. Kurt Russell is fantastic. The entire cast is fantastic, but Kurt Russell is the obvious standout. One of the best cliffhanger endings ever in horror, because you're not sure who's the Thing, if anybody's the Thing, if they destroyed the Thing. Plus, the paranoia is off the charts, and I love that. Not to mention, you got to think about the atmosphere, and even how it's very secluded where they are. And that adds to the tension in the film. So number 2 is The Fog. From the get-go, when he's talking about the history of just had it in my head.
Antonio Bay or
Antonio Bay,
Elizabeth Dane?
Both. Yeah, so from the beginning of the movie throughout the movie, there's a couple of questions I have about the movie overall, but like I love it. And plus, one of the greatest, most iconic actors in any horror movie is in this movie. And I'm not talking about Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm talking about Tom Atkins. And he's great. And he nails Jamie Lee Curtis, who is probably 30 years younger than him. It's weird to see him without a mustache, but there he is. And then my number 1 is Prince of Darkness, and it has been for a few years now. I think Prince of Darkness is extremely underrated. It's so, there's like, with the score and the pacing, there's this build up. It's building and building and building throughout the entire movie, and it's got, there's some elements that you feel that are from the Thing in the movie. It's just, and it's a great ensemble cast, because there's not one person that really stands out as the star of the movie. And I remember I was going through a phase in about 97 or so, 98, where I was watching anything I could watch that had Donald Pleasance in it. And that's why I watched it, because it had Donald Pleasance in it. I'm like, oh, okay. It's got Sam Loomis, and I gotta watch it, So I watched it, and I'm like, well, this is not what I expected. It's weird, And over the years, like, the more I watch it, the more I like it. It's just, it's really good, and it's crazy because it's essentially one location, one it takes place in one location, just like The Thing, kind of like Halloween. Halloween, the early parts of Halloween take place in multiple locations, and same thing with The Thing. But I kind of like that. It's like away from civilization for the most part. I really like that. Assault on Precinct 13, same fucking way. And the isolation that he brings into his movies really has a profound effect. And then you add in the scores, and not all of them are his. Like The Thing is Ennio Morricone, but still, you know, it could have been a John Carpenter score, you know.
Yeah.
So, but those are my top five. It's Prince of Darkness. I would teeter between The Fog and Prince of Darkness. I have for a while, and I think you know that. I love Halloween. Don't get me wrong. I love The Thing. I think The Thing is probably the best horror movie of all time, honestly.
Hmm.
So, and I don't know. John Carpenter, there's no wrong answer if you say, well, there's a wrong answer. If you say the word, you're probably smoking crack, because I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's definitely not his best. But yeah, and John Carpenter. The other thing about John Carpenter, Nate always said that it's his dad of filmmaking, or mother of filmmaking, one of the two. Like Wes Craven's his mother, and John Carpenter's his father of filmmaking. John Carpenter is one of the more influential filmmakers of the last 40 years as far as horror directors. There's a lot of people who look at Carpenter, and people, especially in the indie horror world, that try to do the things that Carpenter did, and they fail. But anyway, at least we have John Carpenter. I'd love him to make one more movie, but he's too busy raking in the paychecks and playing video games and smoking pot. So, and
Yeah.
whatever other drugs he does. But yeah. So let us know what your favorite John Carpenter movies are in the comments. There's also the post on the Facebook page as well. Seth has a video on the YouTube channel, his ranking of, I think it's the 23 John Carpenter. Is that right? 23 movies?
Yeah, because I included his TV movies like Elvis and Someone's Watching Me, and then even the Masters of Horror stuff, because I consider those to be short films. They're only a half hour shorter than a normal film.
Yeah, they're only 60 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so check it out. We've got tons of Carpenter content on the Horror Syndicate. And we do talk about Carpenter a lot on the page too, because he is the master of horror. I mean, there were at least 6 of his movies in the brackets, and it came down to 2 of them. So what does that tell you?
Yeah. Well, I will say this too. I mean, going back to my point on how the general perception is that Halloween and The Thing are his 2 best movies. I will say that he's got more than 2 great movies. Like, honestly, I think going by my ranking, I think probably the top 11 or 12 are all fantastic. And it's really hard to rank them because some of them are just so different from one another. And I absolutely love Prince of Darkness as well. Your favorite there, because it's like, one, you mentioned is, the setting is cool, like the one location, but I also like the idea of it blending science and religion and with its story, and I think the way that it unfolds is fantastic.
So just an update. The Thing has a 767 to 700 lead over Halloween. And there are 12 people who hit the like button like morons. Let's call them out. Tammy Huggins, Lacey Kavanaugh, John Stouffer, Leo Mills, who posts on the fucking group all the time, Tim O'Meara, Dan Hornsby, Brendan Jackson, Mikolos Sabo, Bob Rennie, Michael Griffins, Andrew Barker, Laszlo Cannibal Markel. You are all morons because you hit the like button.
Well, they probably couldn't choose between the 2.
I don't think that's what it is. I think that they just scrolled past and hit the like button. That's generally what happens. Because 6 people on The Thing versus 28 Days Later. Now, this was kind of cool. Silence of the Lambs on Both masterpieces. Yeah. So this was turned out to be good. As I said, we ended up with over 2,000 new followers on the Facebook page, which is fantastic. Hi, Shirley. Shirley. Which I think is great. The more people who follow the page, the more conversation we can have, and hopefully they'll be productive conversations and not conversations where we hurt people's feelings, because that does happen. Um, I'm gonna leave you with one question. Have you ever let a soda sit on your desk so long that you like, when did that happen? When did I put that on there? And then you're like, I can't remember. Let's take a drink anyway.
Well, I can't say that with soda, but with beer.
Any drink really is.
Yeah.
Because there's a cup sitting here from I don't know when. It was Dr. Pepper. I know that. I think it's been 3 weeks. Should I drink it? No, I'm joking.
I mean, I wouldn't.
I would never.
I wouldn't.
That's too close. I mean, at some point, it's going to grow some mold. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you have anything else you want to talk about before we pass away for the evening?
I was going to ask you, have you seen Cigarette Burns?
No.
It's a must watch, man. It's a must watch.
Oh, you said that before. You've said,
and I've been right. I've been right before.
Well, Cigarette Burns is not readily available, if I remember correctly.
You could probably get the DVD for pretty cheap. I know I did.
How cheap? Oh no, it's on Tubi.
It's a must watch. It's like, towards the end of his career, there was a lot of question about whether or not Carpenter was losing his touch, and then he puts out Cigarette Burns, and you're like, nope, he's not losing his touch at all. It's an hour long. It's totally worth it.
Yeah. Give it a shot when I'm in the mood for horror. I have not been in the mood to watch horror movies almost all year. It's been really weird. Like, you know
Really?
how I keep track of how many horror movies I watch throughout the year? Like, and I try to get to a certain amount every year. Like, it's usually about 250, 300 different horror movies. I looked at my list today, and I haven't watched as many. You normally by now, let's see what it was last year. Let me look. Been concentrating on other things. Comic books. Last year, by this time, I was at 81. And I ended up with 273. That seems light. Let's try another year. No, 2022 is no good. That's when I was dating Sherry. A monster. That was about right. Okay, so guess how many I've watched this year?
7.
No, it's more than that.
9.5.
No, it's now you're making me feel like not as cool about this. Number 7 was John Dies at the End for our show. Number 9 was A Nightmare on Elm Street 4. You're naming movies that that are good though. Oh my God! I watched The Horror of Dracula already this year. Damn it!
Watch it again.
I will. 24. I've watched 24, and 3 of them were today. City of the Living Dead, Pet Sematary, and House. Watched them all today.
Original Pet Sematary?
Yeah.
Or the remake?
The 1989 classic. Helena, I let her pick horror movies today. After I watched earlier, so we went and played some wiffle ball, and then I was like, I need to watch City of the Living Dead. I haven't watched it in a while, and I've been wanting to watch it. And so I put it on, and the kids were upset, and I was like, fine, you guys pick the next movie. So Helena went in the horror room, picked out House. I was like, oh, good choice. And then she's like, can I pick the next one? I was like, sure. And she brings up Pet Sematary. I'm like, perfect. Let's watch it. So I didn't get to finish Pet Sematary because I had to do a show. But good times. Do you consider Carpenter the best in the horror genre? I do. Yeah.
Totally. and for me, not just even the horror genre, like even his non-horror stuff. Like I love Assault on Precinct 13. I love Escape from New York. I have a soft spot for Escape from LA. They Live, I don't consider to be horror, but that's such a fun sci-fi action film. His original film, his first film, Dark Star, it took me a little bit to kind of grow on it, but I think Dark Star is actually a lot of fun. It's weird as hell, but very cynical and fun. Starman, I think, is just really a powerful movie. And then I also have a kind of a soft spot for Memoirs of an Invisible Man, even though it's not the greatest. I think that's really cool. But and then you look at his horror films. You look at Halloween, The Thing, Christine, Prince of Darkness, Body Bags, Vampires. Those are all fantastic, in my opinion. Ghost of Mars, I kind of have fun with, even though it's not the greatest of his filmography. And then the Ward is a movie that is definitely not one of his best. It's like one of those ones that feels more like an assignment film more than like a Carpenter film. But it's not like, I don't think it's quite as bad as people make it out to be. It's just, I think the whole movie hinges on a twist that I saw done better in a different movie.
Yeah, I mean, it was good enough for Ryan Johnson to steal the ending for The Last Jedi. It's true. He literally stole that end of The Last Jedi from Escape from LA. So, what does that tell you? It tells me Ryan Johnson's not creative at all.
I mean, Ryan Johnson's not good for Star Wars, but I mean, I dig Looper, Knives Out. I think is really fun.
Knives Out. I think, yeah. I mean, I've been saying that, but I don't know. I still have a
still have a grudge.
Yep, that probably will never go away. Yeah, whatever. I'm a child of divorce. So, anyway, coming up on Wednesday, God willing. Shit, it's Reynolds' birthday. We'll see. We should be doing Hellbound Hellraiser 2.
Did you want to move to a different day?
Maybe, because I forgot it's Reynolds' birthday. Yeah, we didn't go last week because my job is like mentally and now physically exhausting me because I hate it. I hate everything about it. I hate being there, and I really want to quit, but I'm worried that if I just quit, I won't find something for a long time. So I'm trying to just work through it, and it's just not working. It's making me miserable.
Are you searching for another? Are you searching for another job?
Half-ass. I would love nothing more than to take 2 months off, but I don't know like what'll happen if I do that. So I don't care if you like The Last Jedi. I don't care if anybody likes it. I hate it. It's awful. It's a big pile of shit, and it's not just because of Luke. It's so many reasons. How do you drop things in space? Just saying. You can't drop things in space. There's no gravity. Bombs, unless they're magnetized, maybe.
Well, I mean, Poe drops a couple of Yo Mama jokes.
It is a Yo Mama joke, the first Yo Mama joke in a Star Wars movie ever. That's awesome. That was stupid. You know, and then we got to see Luke's daily routine where he milks something and drinks right in front of it. Like, get me a fucking break. There's so many reasons why The Last Jedi was stupid. Now that you know that you can watch the very end where Luke is a Force ghost or Force projection and see that Snake Plissken did it first. So
and better,
yeah. That ending is the ending of Escape from LA. It's 100% the same fucking ending. Check it out.
I prefer Escape from LA.
I think I do too. You know, they're both terrible. In my opinion, I still like that video of John Carpenter What happened with Escape from L.A.? Fuck you. It's John Carpenter's reaction.
Yeah.
At least John Carpenter would make Halloween Resurrection.
There's always a plus.
Also, why the fuck did Ryan Johnson dress Rose Tico, a really pretty good looking Asian chick, in a fucking potato sack? And then she force kissed Finn. There's so many problems with this movie. Like, he didn't ask for that kiss. She just did it. The world of Hollywood. She's fucking, doing the wrong thing. So many problems.
That's not consent.
I will say there's one thing I think the Last Jedi has going for it is it's wonderfully shot. It really is. It's a really good looking movie. But otherwise garbage. Canto Bight is garbage. That doesn't need to be in there. It's Luke throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder like it's nothing. That's bullshit. It's just so many things. I gotta stop. I'm gonna get into it, and I don't want to get into it.
Well, the whole Canto Bight thing is the whole Canto Bight thing is retarded anyway, because it's like it's Rose lecturing Finn about being a slave, and it's like, did you watch The Force Awakens? Finn was a slave. He was taken from as a kid. He was taken from his home and raised as a stormtrooper. So,
yep.
But I do like the whole sequence.
Come on, like
I do like the whole sequence though with Rey and Kylo fighting in Snoke's chambers. I thought that was kind of cool the way it was shot and everything.
Yeah, the way it's shot's really good, but some of the choreography is really bad. Like one of the guards loses one of his weapons out of nowhere. I guess they forgot to CG it back in, and there's just some really poor moments. Like why does he drive his lightsaber into the ground at one point? Like there's this like a wild kicks that nobody's getting hit with. There's so many problems with that fight scene, even though it looks good. Like I watched a video by a guy named Robot Head, and he breaks it down frame for frame. And if you watch that, you'll never be able to see it the same way again, because he like the kicks that she kicks one guy and four of them go flying backwards. It's like they weren't even near her. It's like, what the fuck? There's so many problems with that movie, and don't go watch Robot Head. Robot Head destroys all Star Wars stuff from The Last Jedi and on. So,
it kind of reminds me of how
it's not.
I'm sorry.
Do what?
I'm sorry. I was going to say it kind of reminds me of how I have a hard time watching The Dark Knight Rises now, because like that whole fight sequence with Batman and Catwoman on with Bane and his henchmen like on the rooftop there. It was pointed out about the bad choreography on there, where it's like you have dudes just like doing flips for no reason, even though like they weren't anywhere near like. It's kind of funny.
I'm gonna tell you something. I just watched Oppenheimer the other day. Have you seen this yet?
No, I want to see it though.
Christopher Nolan is one of the most overrated directors of all time. Oppenheimer is a mess of a movie. It just jumps back and forth, back and forth, back and forth between different points of his life way too much. I hate that. I can't. It's hard to follow, and it's just I don't like. There's too much hopping around. I mean, I was able to follow it for sure, but I hated it. I hated I wanted to like that movie because it's a historical piece, but I haven't liked anything Christopher Nolan ever done. Well, I've liked one movie.
See, I absolutely love
Begins, The Prestige.
I absolutely love Memento. That's like my favorite Christopher Nolan film. And then I love Batman Begins.
I've never seen it.
You never saw Memento?
No.
Oh, it's so cool. Like,
never seen
it. In my opinion, it's really cool. Like the whole story plays backwards, and it's just really cool how it's done.
Yeah,
and then
I know the idea behind it. It sounds cool, but I lost faith in him after I saw Inception. So
I would recommend giving Memento a chance.
I might give that a chance, but I think after Batman, I mean, The Dark Knight, I think he got really pretentious in his filmmaking, and his films have just been just everybody's going to be like, oh, this is the greatest movie ever made. And everybody says that about like every movie he makes. And it's like, no, I think you're blinded by something because I think Oppenheimer was a messy movie. It was messy
actually,
in a lot of spots. I think performances were great, but even I don't think, and the award that Robert Downey Jr. just got, what for? He didn't do anything special. He played an old man that was barely in the goddamn movie.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, well, there's like another one of his films that it gets a lot of hate, but I actually love it. It's called Tenet. I think that was a really cool movie.
I haven't seen that one.
But like a lot of people dog that one.
I stopped watching his movies. Yeah, well, that also was a one that came out during the pandemic. I just stopped watching his movies, but I made an exception for Oppenheimer because it was based on historical events, and I like movies like that.
Yeah.
And I just think it just wasn't like it wasn't edited together very well or something. I just was like all over the place, and it was annoying. Like they would go forward to this hearing that he's having, to Robert Downey Jr.'s character, to the hearing he's getting ready to have, to the past, further back in the past, back to the hearing, back to the past. It's like, fuck, man. It's like Batman Begins is very much the same way. And I'm just tired of seeing these movies where you have to be able to fucking follow all these strings rather than telling him in a coherent, linear narrative, which I hate the way that he's got all this shit bouncing around. It's like, motherfucker, man, can't you fucking just tell me the story in order? Like, that's why I don't watch his shit. Prestige is a great movie. I like that one quite a bit. But that's what he does. I think he confuses so many people. Like, I think that was a great movie. Yeah, that was good. It was Christopher Nolan, right? Yeah. Oh, that was brilliant. I think he confuses people, and they don't want to feel dumb, like Inception. Like, oh yeah, Inception was brilliant. I think, and so they don't want to sound dumb, so they're like, oh yeah, it's a fucking brilliant movie, perfect. And Christopher Nolan's one of the best. And at the same time, they're in their brain, they're like, I just don't want to sound dumb. So it's brilliant. Batman Begins was brilliant, even though it had one of the weakest endings of any Batman movie ever made. So anyway, The Dark Knight Rises is better than The Dark Knight.
I love Batman Begins, but
I do too.
So you're saying you don't want him to do the next Bond film?
I don't want him to do any more films. I don't care what he does. I'm not going to watch it more than likely. So I don't like Christopher Nolan. I think he's highly overrated as a director. And I think it's because he makes these movies that are supposedly really smart, and people are like too dumb to realize that they're watching something good that is just pure garbage. It's a lot of money thrown at a movie that is supposed to be good. Why? They're going to make Bond films till we all die. That's why. Because Bond is a moneymaker. Plain and simple. Bam.
I'm a big Bond fan, so I'm eagerly awaiting the next one.
I don't know. I'll see. It depends on who they cast as Bond, and I'll watch it, I'm sure. But if it's Nolan, I'll probably just take my sweet ass time to watch it, because I really wanted to see Oppenheimer and I wanted to like it, but it's a messy movie. I don't think anybody's been cast as Bond yet.
It probably wouldn't be Nolan anyway. I think he would want too much creative control that Eon would not allow.
Yeah, we'll have reality folding in on itself while somebody's creating a bomb back in the past. But you'll have to catch the story in the future, but take the side route that takes you. It's just, yeah. I hate his style of filmmaking. I think is what it is, and I don't like him. I don't want him to touch anything else that I like either. If he has Star Wars, I'm out.
Yeah, Star Wars is dead anyway.
Remakes episode. Star Wars is basically dead, unfortunately.
It's dead.
But I'm seeing episode 1 again, May 3rd. So I love it. I don't care what anybody says.
Dude, I love the prequels as well. Like, they're not the original trilogy by any means, but Revenge of the Sith is fucking amazing.
Weird. Yeah, I love it. I was just talking to my son about it. He's like, "You think they'll do Revenge of the Sith next year for the 20th anniversary?" And I just put my hand on his shoulder and said, "We can only hope, my son. We can only hope." Because I would love to see that in the theater again.
Hmm.
Who, in your opinion, could play Bond? An English dude. Sean Sheridan should play Bond.
Sean
I
Sheridan.
don't. I'm terrible at fan casting. I saw that. Am I gone? Aaron Taylor Johnson was supposedly rumored to be Bond. I don't know. I don't really care, honestly.
Well,
Who plays Bond?
I'm all for Aaron Taylor Johnson playing Bond, and I know that it was a bullshit rumor from the Sun, which is not really a reputable source. Um, but I think he's got the acting chops to do it, and it's just funny because like I'm in several different Bond fan groups, and people share like the photos of him with his long hair and beard, and they're like, that can't be Bond. He needs a shave. It's like they wouldn't if they cast Bond, they're not gonna just like have him be like the way he looks now. They're gonna give him a nice
Yeah.
haircut and he'll be clean shaven and uh, but I think he would be really good to play Bond and I hope they do kind of closer to the books. Henry
To be
Cavill
fair,
would be. I
yeah,
mean,
it would be good. Go ahead.
Henry Cavill would be good, but he's getting too old to this point because they're not going to want to approach someone who's going to be almost 50 by the time that their first film comes out. I mean, at this point, from the last we heard from Barbara Broccoli, there's not even a completed script yet, and then there's pre-production, and then there's production, and then post-production. So people like, I've seen the fan castings of Henry Cavill, who is being fan casted for every motherfucking character who ever existed, and people are throwing out Idris Elba, who's already in his 50s. They're going to go for someone younger, and that's why I think Aaron Taylor Johnson would actually be pretty good because I think he's at that right age where he could carry the series forward for several movies.
He's 33.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill is 40 now. Just so everybody knows that he's in his 40s now. I don't know. It'll probably be somebody we don't know. I'm not worried about it. Henry Cavill had a chance to be Bond like 15 years ago. It's going to be Christian Bale, and no one's going to direct. Maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Nolan would be able to do like a good, like if they literally went back to the books, to Fleming's books, and they did like period pieces. Um, I think he'd probably do pretty good with that.
Yes, Sean Connery was 53 in a movie that was not a part of the Aeon films, so that doesn't really matter. And it was basically a remake of a movie he already made.
Exactly.
No, don't think Nolan's. I don't think Nolan's going to do it anyway. Nolan's. He's got to do his own thing. He's an artiste.
Yeah.
Anyway. So anyway, like I was trying to say before the rant.
Sorry.
It wasn't you. It was me. 100%. Tomorrow the Horror Syndicate will go dark, more than likely for a day because I'm going to take the day off from posting anything. Apologies ahead of time. But I just went through a month of posting 7 or 8 things in a day. Actually, I take that back because Nate's article is up, and I'm waiting till tomorrow to post it on the Facebook page. But on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, one of those days, we'll be doing Hellbound Hellraiser on the Horror Movie Massacre show, and then next Sunday, I'm not sure what's going on, if anybody's going to be here or what. Nate is been out the last 2 weeks, out of town, and I'm not sure what's going on with Jared, but Seth and I'll more than likely be here. So this thing drops battery fast. So anyway, that's all we got. Is there anything else you want to say before we go?
Just, shit, Earl, that was Ted Hollister.
Poor Ted Hollister. Poor Ted Hollister.
You dumb son of a bitch. You said you saw Myers.
Yeah. Booby. Anyway, everyone, have a great night, and we'll see you next time.
You with us tonight.
Yep. Enjoy your evening too. Thank you. Oh God.